This is part 2 of a 2-part weekly news episode. So if you're looking for Summer House news and all the Amanda West scandal and all that kind of stuff, go back into your feed because I posted that episode on Thursday. And for this episode, I will be covering the news from all the other shows, such as Real Housewives of Rhode Island, Beverly Hills, Potomac, and much more. If you're looking for ad-free, head over to my Patreon, patreon.com/Bravo and Botox, and enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Bravo Papers, a safe space for all us Bravo fans who love to analyze, deconstruct, and talk about our favorite Bravo shows ad nauseum. So join me, Bravo and Botox, and we'll catch up on all the Bravo news and read way too much into our favorite shows and Bravo celebrities. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bravo Papers, Bravo Weekly News, here with your host, Emily. And if you missed it, my other episode was released on Thursday, and that one I went over all the Summer House news. So if you're looking for all the, Amanda West scandal of it all, and, just Summer House news in general, then head over to that episode. All right, so let's start today with some Real Housewives of Miami news because something pretty wild happened in Miami. And of course, right when they stopped filming, this happens. And of course, it's like, this is why we need to not cancel the cities that are like exciting cities where things actually happen and they have good storylines. And they'll actually share them with us. It's like they have good storylines sometimes with like Beverly Hills, but it's like no one wants to really talk about it in any kind of like transparent way, and the only one talking about it in a transparent way right now is kind of like Dorit with this whole divorce, but that's just not even that exciting, okay? This divorce is much more exciting, okay, which is what's it called? Lenny and Lisa. So just when you thought this divorce storyline was slowing down, Lisa Hochstein has been arrested. And not only that, apparently there was a warrant out for her arrest for the last like 28 days or something like that. Like, it's crazy. So people even have this screenshot. This was posted by the Bravo docket, before like the mugshot and any official news of it. But it was like, wanted person details. So this was from like the Miami police or whatever. And it said, if you have information about a missing or warning person, blah, blah, blah. And then, here's like the tip line phone number. And then underneath it's Hochstein Lisa, offense, invasion of privacy, reporting agency, Miami, DADE, COSO, whatever that stands for, agency number, date of warrant, March 17th, 2026. Like, what is happening? Like, what is happening? So then the news breaks. So I saw that. I saw that on Bravo Docket on their Instagram. And then I was like, what? Like, a warrant for what? And then I'm like, and how has this warrant been out? And like, just no one knew about it or it wasn't coming up. I don't know. And then this story breaks. Real Housewife Lisa Hochstein, ex, as in Jody, accused of intercepting conversations involving Hochstein's ex-husband. Okay, so here's the story. Basically, Lisa and Jody are facing criminal charges. And okay, where is it? And so these are one count of interception of wire, oral, or electronic communications. Okay, so it states that the two, between March 12th and March 31st of 2023, so this is going back a bit, the two unlawfully and intentionally tried to intercept, or tried to have someone else intercept oral statements by Leonard Hochstein and those Leonard Hochstein spoke with. Records show Glidden was taken into custody Saturday. I guess that's Jody, obviously. How did I never know Jody's last name? Okay. Saturday, he was no longer appearing in the online jail database on Monday. Meanwhile, where's the rest? Where's the other part? Sorry. Lenny is accusing his ex-wife of planting a listening device on his car in an attempt to monitor his calls. Lisa denies these claims to Page Six. In a joint statement to Local 10 News, attorneys representing Lisa and Jody said this matter is part of a contentious divorce proceeding and does not belong in criminal court. Well, I mean, that sounds all well and good, but if they broke the law, it doesn't matter that it's a civil divorce case. If you break the law, you break the law. If somebody does something like breaks into their ex's house or like assaults them or something, like that's still, it can become criminal, right? So the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office, meanwhile, told Local 10 News the warrant is currently under seal. Okay. So that was kind of like what we knew about it. And then we got a post from Lisa Hochstein on social media. And she reshared this from, like a psychology kind of like Instagram account. And it says strategic timing. He doesn't release damaging information randomly. He times it for maximum destruction before a court date, a career milestone, a custody hearing. The goal is to cause the most damage at the most vulnerable moment. So I wonder what this moment is and like why it's vulnerable. Like I'm wondering what I'm not saying she's lying. I'm just saying like is there a court date coming up, I wonder, or is it because the show got canceled and he knows she's not going to be able to like speak her piece and kind of like tell her side on camera? I wonder if that's part of it. Like now that like she doesn't have a public platform, like she still does, but like not in the same way. Maybe that's kind of his end game here. I could see that. I could see Lenny doing that. I think he's very malicious and very conniving. And it is crazy considering that like he left her and he wanted another woman and didn't want her anymore. And it's like, why do you have so much like animosity? You're the dumper. So I don't know. Okay. So as of like a couple days ago, there was an arrest warrant out for Lisa Hochstein's arrest. Okay. And Jody was arrested and booked into the Miami-Dade jail, April 2026. I don't have the exact date, but this month. He has since been released and he's no longer in custody, according to online records. And there is a mugshot of him with his eyes very wide as usual. And meanwhile, Lisa, there was an arrest warrant out for her, which was active until, was it yesterday or the day before? But basically, she turned herself in. Okay. So what happened was, in true housewives style, okay, Lisa went and she got some glam and she put on a little outfit, something, jail appropriate, and got her mugshot taken. So she went and she turned herself in. And yeah, full makeup, hair, all that kind of stuff. She got glammed up for the photo. She flashed a toothless style, as Page Six says. And yeah, she has already been released since that arrest and the mugshot and all that. So I guess what I have been seeing is that she wasn't supposed to even be held, but she was held for 3 hours. So that's what I'm hearing. So she was released, after that time. And it's not like she's, under arrest and being held in like a jail cell or anything like that. Like, and she's posted on her Instagram, like stories and stuff of like her at home in the backyard and things like that. And, Alexia and Adriana went to show their support of her. And, like the true Miami ladies that they are and that they've always been on this show, they're always able to put aside their differences, They put aside their differences and they support one another when like crazy things happen, like divorces, deaths, affairs. These women always do that. And that's why they've always been such a great cast. So it is really, it's a tragedy Like, it is a tragedy that they are not filming right now. You know, like Team Lisa, even if she was spying, I mean, okay, like you shouldn't be spying. I do not condone putting listening devices in people's vehicles. But, I'm sure he deserved it. I mean, listen, it's a hard, like, I can't defend Lenny, like, because he's just such a terrible, terrible human being. So, I need the full story and the full context, but I'm sure he was doing something that pushed her to that point. Okay. And I know somebody could be listening and be like, you're victim blaming. But like, I mean, look at who the victim is. Come on. Like, it's Lenny. I don't know. Like, I can't feel bad for him. I really don't care. Maybe he was up to some illegal stuff and she was trying to get him on it so that, to give herself an upper hand. Like, the reason I'm annoyed with Lisa in this situation is because, like, why would you do this and give him ammunition? Like, I can understand that there may have been something that, like, she really thought she could get on him, or I could understand that he is doing some shady shit or something and she wants to kind of expose that or whatever, or like maybe he is doing something to like screw her over and she thought she was playing the defense or whatever. But like, why would you give him, like, now you've really given him this ammunition in the divorce proceedings and just in general. Like, it looks really bad. And I just don't know how it's going to play out for her now. Like, I think it seemed, I mean, I don't really know, but sorry. But it did seem kind of like, they were maybe coming towards the end of this divorce. And I don't know, it can't be good for the children. Somebody's got to think of the children, right? Anyways, yeah. And it's just crazy, like with Jody getting involved in this. It's like, does Jody have like, I don't know, contacts? Is he like, involved in criminal activity? Like, did he pay someone to do this? Like, what is happening?
This is Sarah Galley from the podcast Dandy's Girls. Grief doesn't keep a calendar. Anxiety doesn't clock out after 5. Depression doesn't care if it's your busy season. Support can still fit into your life. With Grow, you can find a therapist who meets you where you are. Whether it's your first time in therapy or your 50th, Grow makes it easier to find a therapist who fits you, not the other way around. They connect you with thousands of independent licensed therapists across the U.S., offering both virtual and in-person sessions, nights, and weekends. You can search by what matters, like insurance, specialty, identity, or availability, and get started in as little as 2 days. And if something comes up, you can cancel up to 24 hours in advance at no cost. There are no subscriptions, no long-term commitments. You just pay per session. Grow helps you find therapy on your time. The single most important decision that I have made to better my life was starting therapy. It's helped me both better understand and communicate with family members, friends. Whatever challenges you're facing, Grow Therapy is here to help. Grow accepts over 100 insurance plans, and sessions average about $21 with insurance, and some pay as little as $0 depending on their plan. Visit growtherapy.com/letsgo today to get started. That's growtherapy.com/letsgo. growtherapy.com/letsgo. Availability and coverage vary by state and insurance plan.
Okay, y'all, I've got some exciting spring news for all of us to get us out of the winter slump. Way Day is coming up at Wayfair. From April 25th to the 27th, you can score the best deals on everything you need for inside and outside your home for spring, summer, and beyond. And the best part is that on Way Day, everything on the site ships fast and free. And if you're wary about shopping for decor and big furniture online, you don't have to be, because the Wayfair verified items means that a product specialist has used a 10-point quality inspection process, so you know you're getting a quality piece. So my house has always been more of a modern farmhouse kind of style, but I'm kind of over that and trying a more classic traditional style. And because of all the handy and specific filters on Wayfair, I've been able to find some perfect decor pieces to help redecorate my home. And with the thousands of reviews, many with pictures, it's so helpful so I can visualize pieces in my space. I got this beautiful floral vase and faux tulips, plus some new fluted candle holders, and they just look gorgeous on my console. Wayday is the sale to shop the best deals in home. We're talking up to 80% off with fast and free shipping on everything. Head to wayfair.com April 25th through the 27th to shop Wayday. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Anyways, yeah, I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about this as the days go on, obviously, because like this just cannot be the end of it, obviously. But for now it is. So let's go to some Beverly Hills news. So there's this rumor flying around. I think it started with Dumois. The rumor, yeah, I'm pretty sure it did. The rumor is about Kyle Richards leaving Beverly Hills. And I know maybe you're like, Emily, why are you even giving this any credence? Like, she does this every year. And yes, you are correct in saying that. Kyle does this every year. Every year, Kyle and her PR team put out a story of like, Kyle Richards not sure if she's returning to Beverly Hills, on the fence. And then when she does decide to come back, which she always does, and because we know it's bullshit, she always starts talking about how, like, I really wasn't going to come back this year. And it's almost like she thinks she's threatening us, and like we're all going to be like, no, don't leave, Kyle, the show won't be the same without you. But in reality, no one gives a shit. And instead, she just gets made fun of. Like, everyone's like, oh, Kyle's doing her yearly story of like whatever. Anyways, so now there's this story that says during the Ultimate Girls road trip, there was a farewell as a solo scene for Kyle Richards. Not sure if she's leaving, but it was filmed. So now people are like, okay, so maybe this is like the real one where she's actually leaving. I'll believe it when I see it. That's all I'm going to say. Like, I can't, like, if I have to bet, if somebody, like, for some reason was forcing me to bet on this, I would bet that she's staying. And until I hear otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, and I've said this before, like, Kyle Richards will be on this show for like the rest of her life. Like, I just don't see her leaving. So yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on it. And it's hard for me to believe that she would leave, especially at this time in life. She's getting divorced. All her kids are like moved out pretty much and like grown up, and like are like doing their own thing and having their own lives. So it's kind of like, why, and she's talking about how she's lonely and like she doesn't have anyone to come home to. Like, it's like, why would you give up something that is just yours and keeping you busy? Now, the only way I could see her maybe doing it is if, she's like moving to Nashville to buy a house with Morgan Wade, allegedly, and, start that life up. Which is possible because I have heard. So apparently, and this is the other rumor, is that she purchased a house in Nashville with Morgan Wade and that they are living there together and that they are very much together and not broken up and that was a lie. So I don't know. But again, if that is true, then she will leave the show and we'll see we'll probably see this play out in the press eventually. And again, I'll believe it when I see it. So in other Kyle Richards news, according to TMZ, Kyle did sue Kim last year in an effort to kick her out of their LA area condo. Okay. So according to court documents obtained by TMZ, Kyle filed a lawsuit against Kim in January 2025, seeking to have her older sister vacate her 2-bedroom, 3-bath, 1,600 square foot condo in Encino. Okay. Kyle claimed that Kim had been living in the condo for years, but she told her to pack up in late 2024. In her suit, Kyle sought possession of the place and wanted damages against Kim of $140 per day, beginning in November 2024, for every day she stayed past her welcome. Now, Kim apparently never responded to the suit. So a default judgment was entered in March 2025 that required Kim to surrender possession of the property. Okay, so then the court docs in June 2025 showed that the county sheriff's office did try to serve Kim with a judgment, but she'd already moved out at that point. So Kyle was able to like take the condo back, basically. So yeah, so this was, this lawsuit was filed a couple of months, I guess, after Kim had relapsed, after, we know that she's been struggling with addiction, for a very, very long time. And apparently the family decided the, tough love approach until she got it together, I guess. Yeah. So, we have heard the latest update we got was when Kyle and Kathy talked about how she's living in Florida and she's quote unquote doing better. So I don't know if that means she's in like a rehabilitation center. I know there's, Delray, Florida is like the rehab capital of the country. Like there's the most rehab centers. So maybe she's down there. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I'm always on the fence about this stuff. Like I know that the tough love approach doesn't work when dealing with addiction. Like that is proven. However, it was kind of like the popular thought for a long time. And, people who've just consumed kind of addiction knowledge from like popular culture and media might think that, but it's actually proven that it's not a method that actually works or has any success. Now, that being said, the family members of addicts are still allowed to pursue or to enforce their own boundaries, right? Like you don't have to put up with someone abusing you or stealing from you or whatever, just because they have this disease. So, it's not like a black and white situation, and it's hard for me to comment like without knowing the nuances of it. Sitting back and just looking at it, I could be like, well, Kyle, you've got millions of dollars. Can't you just give her this condo? Like just let her stay there so she has like a home to live in so she's not on the streets, and that's what I think a lot of people would think or do if it was their family member. But I don't know what the situation was. Maybe she was, I don't know, was she trashing the place? Was she allowing people in there? Was it getting, ruining the property? Like we don't know exactly everything. So I would have to know. I always lean, against Kyle Richards because it's Kyle Richards, but but listen, maybe, if it helped her get back into treatment, I don't know. Maybe it ended up being a good thing. These situations they're just very difficult. Like it's really easy to judge as outsiders, but these situations are just so, so hard. So as always, I just hope Kim Richards is getting help and doing better because, she's had a rough go. Okay. Now in other sort of Beverly Hills legal news, Denise Richards has scored a big win in her divorce. Thank God, because I'm so tired of hearing of this psychotic, like sociopathic abuser getting all the wins when it comes to Denise Richards. So a judge ruled that a debt collector cannot go after Denise's earnings to cover Aaron's debt. So I guess Aaron has a whole bunch of his own debt that, when you get married, their debt becomes your debt, right? Like depending on your agreement and all that, but confirming that she isn't financially responsible for anything he owed before or during the marriage. So I guess he had made a request for that to the court that she would be responsible or partly responsible for his debt. And the request was denied without prejudice. So yay for Denise Richards. Yay for a win. Okay. I know it hasn't all been a win for her. Actually, most of it hasn't. But, I just hope that she can get one soon. So, yeah. In other Beverly Hills news, Rachel Zoe's ex-husband's new girlfriend has some things to say. I guess people have been telling her kind of everything that Rachel has been saying on the show. And she posted on her Instagram stories the following. Okay. And specifically, it seems like what she's responding to is, Rachel talking about her husband wishing happy birthday to the new girlfriend and that hurting her feelings and stuff like that. Listen, maybe unpopular opinion, and I love Rachel Zoe, but I did think it was a little weird how bothered she was by that, because I was kind of like, you left him and, I don't know, like it's not like crazy for him to say happy birthday to her on social media, is it? But then I was like, okay, maybe it's because, her sons are still struggling with it. But again, I'm like, I can't remember how old they are. I'm like, are they on social media? I don't know. But, maybe she feels like he's doing it to rub it in. And then she's like, well, it's 3 days after my birthday. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't think that matters. Like, I'm not going to lie. I don't think like how close your birthday is to hers really matters in all of this. Like, it could be like 6 months apart. It doesn't really make a difference. But I'm assuming it's because of it bothering her sons. But I did think that at this point they had met her and they know their dad's got a new girlfriend. But I can understand that that's still hard for them. And, maybe it's kind of like, well, he's flaunting it. Like I could see that. Anyways, so this is what she says. She says, since so many of my friends reached out, I want to set the record. My birthday is September 2nd, one day after her, not 3. Again, I don't know why this matters, the closeness of the birthdays, but okay. We've been dating for almost 2 years. I'm actually a businesswoman who happens to style, not a celebrity stylist, but you do you. Respect. Okay. How are you? So you're a businesswoman. How do you happen to style? Like, did you just like trip and fall into it? I don't understand that. But you do you, girl, respect. So I guess she's saying like, oh, because Rachel called her like a wannabe stylist. But yeah, yeah. Okay. Rachel's allowed to say that, I think, when taking digs at her ex, but her ex's new girlfriend is also allowed to be offended by it, you know? And this is what drives me crazy is like, neither of these women should be even fighting over this. It's the man that's the problem. Let's be honest. Unless, it's kind of implied that maybe there was some overlap happening. So I think that's kind of part of it. So that does make a difference if there was some overlap. Then she says, 4, leave me the F alone. 5, what's so insane? You did not want to be married and said it yourself. You wish you left 7 years ago. Well, that's where she kind of has a win, right? Like in this argument, I think Rachel did herself kind of not like a disservice, but like when you admit like you should have left 7 years ago and you haven't been happy in this long and you're the one who chose to leave and then it kind of gives the other person like the argument of like, well, you said you're happy with this decision. Like it does give them some ammunition. Then she says, you're acting like a jealous woman. Get a new storyline. I'm not going anywhere, so get used to it. Okay. I think this woman would have been better off saying nothing. Like, I think she shouldn't have even addressed it and just taken the high road of like silence, because I do think that Rachel was already getting some backlash a little bit about the way that she has spoken about her ex and the way she talks to her kids about it. It started with like Bethany Frankel talking, because, Bethany has to have an opinion on everything. So it started with Bethany talking about it, but then most people were like team Rachel, like, we've loved her on the show. We like how she's being, as Kyle Richards would say, open and honest, all that kind of stuff. But I did see an increasing amount of people online being a little like icked out by her kind of like trying too hard to have these conversations with her sons on cameras. And sometimes it almost felt like she wanted them to like say something bad about him. it's not like she says that explicitly, but I can see how some viewers interpreted it that way. And there were some parts where I was like, Rachel, don't go down this path, especially with the kids. Like, have these conversations with the women, but the more you have these conversations on screen that aren't just like asking your kids how they're doing and are like literally like specifically bringing up the dad and getting them to talk about him, the worse it looks for you. And and I like her and I don't want her to like kind of do that, because it does give your ex, like I said, more ammunition, right? Like, oh, look, she can't let it go, she won't stop talking about it, she's trying to turn the kids against me. Like, he could twist things, right? So then the ex also says, this was all filmed a year after me and R. I met the kids a year after dating. She knew for months. So sick of her storyline. There you have it. You want the truth? I'll give you the truth. She's a great actor. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, but is that different than what she said? Like, I thought Rachel said it had been a year of him dating someone. I don't know. I have to go back and check. But I don't think that's different from what she said. I think it's more just about the way maybe it was introduced to the kids and how much it's bothering them. And I can understand that. Like, I can understand them being like shook by like, this is like his first girlfriend, So I don't know. All right. What else we got? Let's go to some Real Housewives of Potomac news, because there is big news from there, because casting has been released for the new season. Okay. So we've got Karen, Giselle, and Ashley. I think and Wendy. I think those, and Stacey. Actually, those are all obvious. I just kept going down the list. I'm like, all of these were obvious choices. The only one that I guess I was holding on to a little bit of hope for them being demoted was Ashley. Like, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of hoping that she would be a friend of this season. But, she just keeps hanging on. So we have kind of the core cast. We also have Tia coming back, which I'm not surprised about. I know a lot of people are like, I would have rather had Angel. I would have rather had both. I think both Angel and Tia would have made for a good second season. Tia did kind of fall flat, but that, like, she was great at the start and then she kind of fell flat. But I also think that Tia made some mistakes, and I do think that watching it back after her first season, I think she can maybe kind of see what some of those were and maybe adjust or course correct for the next season. So I think that Tia deserves one more chance, but if she doesn't like get it together for this season, then maybe her time's up. Now the big news that everyone's talking about though is Robin as a friend of. Okay. Oh yeah, and Karen is fired. I guess I should have mentioned that. I'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about Robin as the friend of. So Robin is returning. Which, yeah, I'm shocked at this, actually. Like, I did think that eventually they would bring Robin back, and I did actually think it would be in a friend of role, because I think if they bring her back too soon full time, the audience is going to lose it. And I don't think the audience has had enough time to quote unquote heal from Robin's, very, very abysmal mean girl last season. However, I think a friend of could actually be a good role for her. It could give people, like the people who enjoyed Robin, which I don't know, there are people who enjoyed Robin. I enjoyed Robin up until like the last maybe like 2 or 3 seasons where she got kind of toxic, like more so. I think she sort of lost herself a bit, and it seemed like she wasn't as fun as she once was, and it was just getting too like mean girl and stuff like that. So that's why I kind of think like her coming back as a friend of, I think would be actually a really good decision. So yeah, so I think a friend of, she can just kind of laugh and make jokes with Giselle, but it'll be sparingly, and just kind of like here and there, and not like, doesn't have to be like super in our faces and like on the screen all the time. So I think that makes sense. Do I think we really need it? No, I don't think we need it. Like, I think we had a good cast. I don't think we needed Monique either, to be honest. But, I think the cast should have just kind of stayed where it was, maybe minus Kiarna, if I'm going to be honest. So, yeah, so Kiarna's out. She posted this Instagram story of her like walking in the city, like, all dolled up or whatever. And she says, like, and, she's like looking all like, like I'm a boss kind of thing. And it says, oh, hey, I've been waiting on you. This chapter closed with intention. The next one, bigger, better, and produced by me. No noise, just elevation, big business only. Okay. The only part of this that I'm going to take an issue with is this chapter closed with intention. You did not intend to close this chapter. Like, trust me, if Kiarna had been offered a contract for the next season, I 1000% think that she would have taken it. Like, she 1000% wanted to come back. Okay. This is one of those like, you can't fire me, I quit, or I didn't want to come back anyways, or like, and almost all housewives do that when they leave the show. I do think that, Kiarna's probably disappointed by not coming back. And again, I'm not saying she's not like successful in her own right and she doesn't have her own business and all that kind of stuff, because she does, but it's just like, don't pretend you're like so happy about this. I just want people to be honest and say, yeah, I'm bothered. I got fired and it sucks. Like, that was the one thing I really could give Tamra Judge respect for, was when she got fired. She was like, I got fired and I hate it and I want my job back. I kind of think that's like a good thing to do. But yeah, I mean, it's good to just kind of play it classy and stay in their good graces, because you never know, right? You look at Robin, you never know. And Robin left on a very sour note. And from what I've heard, she's quite bitter and angry about being fired. So yeah, but Andy seems to just Bravo, they just seem to really have like love Giselle and Robin. I think they always have. So I actually, from the jump when she was fired, I was like, this isn't going to last. Like, this is going to be like almost like a pause, as Andy says, and then she'll be back. Okay. And as far as Angel leaving, I'm not really surprised by that. Like, I kind of saw that coming. Angel, I would believe, would maybe choose not to come back. Like, her first season was such a train wreck, like, because of her mostly. I could see her almost being like watching it back and just being like humiliated. And I think she does have a little bit of like, I think she thinks highly of like herself and her family and like being married to a professional athlete and all that kind of stuff. So I could see her being like, I'm not going to be on this show where they're going to like look down on that and where they're going to make a fool of me. Like, I could just see that. But I mean, she did buy a house in Potomac like soon after. So maybe she did want to be back on it. I don't know. But, I'm not shocked at that, but I do think it was a mistake. I think Angel had more to give. I really do. Like, I hate when they do that. I think you got to give people, unless they're like truly, truly like absolute garbage on the show. I do think that you got to give people at least two and then cut. Unless it's like, I'm trying to think of someone who like, there's been quite a few who we've like known after one season, like it's time. But the people who are sort of like a question mark, or you have like some of the audience wants them, some doesn't, like those are the people who, yeah, just give them one more shot and you're either going to know you did the right thing, solidify it, or you're going to be like, so glad I gave this person another chance, Okay, let's go to some Real Housewives of Atlanta news, because we have some drama coming from that area because the show premiered, and with the premiere comes the drama. And, we've had all these like, back and forths with Drew and K. Michelle about, like, are they beefing over music or whatever? And K. Michelle being like, you can't compete with me when it comes to that and all that kind of stuff. So, there's been a bit of back and forth between them. So after the premiere, K. Michelle wrote on Twitter, What threw me was you don't know me or my music, but when I looked to figure out who you even were, you were already following me on all my platforms. Oh, cute. Yeah, that's kind of embarrassing, Drew. Um and you know I love Drew, but like Drew like this Drew likes to lie, as we know, but Drew pretending you don't know who she is. It's like the oldest trick in the book. And it works if you're pretending against someone who's like thinks they're bigger than they are. But when it's someone who actually is like successful or has a name for themselves in like business, acting, music, whatever the case may be, then it's like, then it just makes you look cringe, which is what's happening. So then Drew wrote also on Twitter, until you address me directly, you do not have an issue with me. You have an issue with yourself. Okay. And I don't think, from what I know, that K. Michelle responded to that. So now, meanwhile, Drew is having some Drew drama of her own in her personal life when it comes to her divorce from Ralph, which is still ongoing. Okay. So this story came out and I was very surprised by this. So let's get into it. This was one of those ones where it was like the guy was kind of winning and I was surprised by that. So Drew Sidora ordered to leave Georgia home by May 31st. The judge said due to the current financial circumstances of the parties, she has to leave the home. They will continue to split the expenses. So Ralph was awarded primary physical custody of the kids during the school year, and Drew will have parenting time on alternating weekends starting in August. The decision came after claims that their kids had excessive absences from school while in Drew's custody. That is crazy. I know that in the US, in some places, okay, I don't want to speak too freely because I'm not an expert on it, but I have heard that in some places you can get like penalties or you can get in trouble or whatever for, having your kid outside of school too much or like letting them stay home too much or whatever, or like, not sending them to school. So, knowing that, and I don't know what the laws are and the stipulations are in Atlanta, in Atlanta. I don't know why I was getting confused for a second, but maybe that is a thing. And maybe doing that is a big no-no and that's impacted her custody. I'm not sure. But it is pretty crazy, but like why? But I'm also asking like, why have they had excessive absences? Like, that's not good. And I remember Drew's mom saying to her that she thought she saw like a big change in them and that, you know, things were a little too, this was like last season or the season before, that things were a little too like loosey goosey with like the rules, and, that the kids were like changing and having more behavioral issues and stuff, and which you know, isn't like shocking for when there's like a divorce happening, but it is kind of like, the mom did seem to be kind of implying that maybe Drew was partly at fault for that, right? Like that it wasn't all just Ralph, I guess. But anyway, so that's what's going on right now. And then Drew did address this and she said, "Good morning. Some details regarding my divorce have recently become public, although the process is not yet finalized. During this time, Ralph and I are committed to co-parenting and doing what's best for our children. While certain things are beyond my control, my focus remains on showing up every day as the best mother I can be. Living in the public eye comes with challenges, but I'm choosing to move forward with grace, growth, and intention. My children are my priority, and I'm committed to leading with love, peace, and positivity. There is no ill intent toward anyone, just a continued focus on healing, evolving, and becoming the best version of myself." Okay. So I don't know, like, is it like, I don't know, maybe she was having trouble like handling it all. Like maybe she was having trouble being the primary caregiver and like kind of, taking care of everything on her own. Like I don't know. Or maybe she's devastated by this. Like it's hard to say because this statement that she's putting out is quite, it's a PR kind of vague, like politically correct, whatever kind of statement. It's like what you put out. Like, I'm thinking about the children, I'm putting the children first, and that's it. So it doesn't really give us any details in terms of like her actual emotions about this, or if this is something that she wanted, didn't want, etc. I can't imagine anyone wanting this, when going through a separation and divorce. Um, you know, especially if you have fought for custody, which it seems like she has. And then there was like these court records that showed like their annual income, and it showed that Ralph was making like way more per month than she was, which was hard to believe. What does Ralph do? Or is Ralph like, is he like fuzzing things so it looks like her income is his? Like, like as like her manager or something? Because her income per month seemed extremely low and his seemed extremely high. So there is something funny going on. Like, the math is not mathing, as people say. So yeah, we will see. I think we'll get more details as time goes on. Okay. Now let's go to some news with Kelly and Portia's ex, Dennis, because these two are getting into it on social media, which is surprising. So the show premiered, and one of the things that came up was Kelly's, grand opening or reopening of her chicken and waffles place. Or was that the second episode? Yeah, I think it was the second episode, but clips were posted ahead of time, like on at the Peach Report and stuff like that. So Dennis commented and was like, damn, was this the opening for the one that's already closed? Yikes. And then Kelly responded and said, I see why your baby mama likes girls now. Bye, Demisha. And then Dennis replied and said, I think she meant Denisha. But if she can't do math and pay those bills, I'm sure she can't spell either. And then he also replied to someone else and said, somebody, I guess, was asking, like, is it true that it's actually closed again? And he replied and said, she went to get waffles and none was there. I'm just asking. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to think about this. Like, obviously Portia and Dennis are being messy, and obviously they're like trying to get under Kelly's skin and they don't like each other and all that kind of stuff. But, it does kind of feel like there is something up with this restaurant. Like she's reopening it already. And it could definitely be because of her divorce. And I don't know what's going on with that. It seems like her ex is very toxic. Well, he definitely is. And so it could just be that. Right. But then I'm also kind of like, so you reopened it and then now apparently it's closed again. So it's like, did you just reopen it for the show? Which wouldn't be like absolutely insane. Like that happens all the time. Like housewives do these like fake businesses and stuff. But anyways, and I'm not saying she doesn't have like a legit restaurant. Like it seems like, she has had, I don't know, does she have more locations of this? I think she did have more locations of this, but I think that was the location that was not open. So I don't know. Okay. Maybe that location is a ruse. I don't know. You never know. Honestly, I'm at the point with like housewives where I generally don't believe any of their businesses are real until I see like a true legitimate evidence of success, which doesn't happen that often, to be honest. Okay. So the other thing is that Kelly responded to Portia and her accusations in the second episode, saying that she has slept with a married man. And she says, two things are certain and one thing's for sure. I've never slept with a married man, but she definitely said she would. No press, just truth. Yeah, that's true. I mean, this is a tough storyline for Portia. It's going to be tough to accuse someone else of this when when you and Simon, like it's hard, I can't give Portia a lot of like empathy or I can't like sit and watch Portia on her high horse lecturing somebody else about that. I just can't. And again, the rumor that she heard about Kelly could be true, but again, it's like it's wrong messenger, right? And it's like, who are you to criticize somebody else even if this is true? Like that's the crazy thing. So, I don't think, and now Kelly always has a built-in comeback every time this is brought up. Well, we know you did it, Portia. Like, that can always be her comeback. Here's the other thing. Maybe Kelly did hook up with this guy. Did she know he was married? Right? Like, people lie, wedding rings come off, right? Like, it's just, why are we so quick to blame Kelly? And I don't even like Kelly that much. I'm just like, I'm just trying to look at it from both sides. Okay. Okay. Let's go to some Real Housewives of Rhode Island news because this show is amazing. This show is, I haven't seen a premiere like this in a long time, and it is fantastic. Everyone's talking about it. And I just want to say that the new Ladies of London reboot is just as good. It's not getting as much like hoopla as Real Housewives of Rhode Island is, but it deserves it. So if you haven't watched it, please go watch it. Because if it doesn't get a second season, I'm going to run in the corner and cry because it's so good. Okay. So please go watch it. I promise you will not be disappointed. You will not be disappointed by Rhode Island either if you haven't watched that. They are just made for reality TV. It very much gives like old school housewives vibes. And that's actually kind of what I like about Ladies of London is you have people on the show who are not afraid to stand in it. They're not afraid to have an unpopular opinion that, would be, not the like politically correct one that like, that you can kind of like assume the audience is on your side, and they're like, no, this is my opinion and I'm standing in it. Even if people try to, whatever, I don't want to use the word bully, but even if people try to get me to change it, like I'm not changing it, even if it is unpopular and everyone hates me because of it. And like, you just don't get those people on reality TV as much anymore. And it's a shame. Okay. It's a damn shame. We do get it on Rhode Island, which is great. So, we have this housewife, Liz McGraw, who's like she's kind of like the one who looks like Dolores and sounds like Dolores. So reportedly, and she's also known as the like cannabis queen in Rhode Island, and reportedly she has 1,000 plus documented calls with Dino Guilmetti, who is currently facing 7 felony drug charges, including manufacturing and distribution. He is also alleged to have ties to the New England mafia. So right from the jump, people were kind of talking about how there was like mafia ties for Liz and maybe even others on this show. And this guy, Dino, is the one who is kind of rumored that Liz is maybe having an affair with. And, I think she is. Do I think that maybe her husband kind of knows about it and is like okay with it? Yes. Also, like that's what I think is kind of happening. I wouldn't be shocked if her and him both have kind of side pieces. And I do think there's some organized crime connection here. So I don't think that they're living like the traditional, kind of lifestyle. I don't think she's like in Kelsey's position where she's going to be like talking about it because it's a little different. Like she's married and, they have stepkids and all, like it's just a different situation. And she's older and all that kind of stuff, and not that like you can't when you're older, but like maybe comes from a more like old school mindset. So yeah, that's why I'm just kind of like something's up. So it's either that or it's that he's around all the time because maybe they're doing business together or they're involved in illegal activity or both, which is the most likely answer. Most likely answer is both. Okay. In my opinion, all alleged, nothing known 100%. Okay. Now, meanwhile, Joellen, everyone's favorite villain, although I wouldn't even really say that she is the villain, actually. I think she was sort of like meant to be the villain and was kind of edited that way. But again, I think she just kind of like stands in her convictions and is so confident in them that she's ended up being kind of beloved by a lot of people, or most people. So she put up a video basically just being like, kind of as a comeback to Rula being mad at her about, talking about her husband's affair, Rula's husband's affair. And she says, don't shoot the messenger. And then her caption was like, you shop in Cranston, you golf in Cranston, your husband sleeps in Cranston. Because if you watch the second episode, Rula is kind of talking about how like, oh, Cranston is just like not my vibe, and so I guess that's Joe Ellen's comeback. And yeah, it's a good one. Not gonna lie, it's definitely a good one. Now, the other thing that people have dug up in regards to Rula is pictures of Rula's husband Brian's alleged mistress, who, there pictures of her kind of like posing. And the pictures are actually her in Rula's backyard. Not good. Like there's like this picture of her. She's wearing these like shiny pleather pants and she's like, hey, like holding a cocktail. And when you see this, it's like her standing in front of like a pool house or a guest house. And it's definitely the same one from Rula's backyard, as the internet sleuths have figured out. Okay. And people are saying that this woman in this picture is Brian's current mistress. Okay. Because, we, with the whole like Instagram and all that kind of stuff, or like the Instagram pictures where on Rhode Island, how they like to tear people's faces off the pictures. We didn't actually see what her face was. But, the streets are saying that he's still with her and he still has her on the side. But yeah. So I don't know. Other people are saying he has a mistress and a girlfriend. Like there's just, there's too much floating around for there to not be some truth in it, right? Like where there's smoke, there's fire. And I'm sorry, but like he didn't even deny it. Like when Joellen and her husband like confronted them, like there was no denial. Okay, there was no denial at all. Honestly, these are the types of feuds that you usually have to wait years for them to like build on Housewives. So the fact that we're getting this and it's been like 3 episodes is it's chef's kiss all the way. So go check out Rhode Island if you haven't already, because you're really missing out if you haven't. Okay. You got to do me that favor. And ladies of London, don't forget. All right, everyone. I think that's all we got for today. Thank you for joining me and for your patience on this second episode with all the non-Summer House shows. And I will be back at you with more news on all the shows next week. And you are now in the know for everything Bravo. See you next time. Bye.